composing gloves here, and today we're going to talk about getting that nice auto-tune sound on your vocal. Here's a vocal that I have that I recently sang, and it is where we're going to start. It is not good. This is what it sounds like. We come from far away. We come in here to play. This is our chance to say. So you can see that's not good. So we're going to go ahead and mute that and never listen to it again. And here's the version that's been just processed the crap out of. And we're going to go ahead and flip the effect stack on. We come from far away. We come in here to play. This is our chance to say we're through with you today. Now if we toss that in the context of something. We come from far away. We come in here to play. This is our chance to say we're through with you today. Red sides and rosy skies, confetti to the eyes. Just when the problem dies, I hear the children cry. So it is something, I mean, this is probably not how I'd start the track anyways. This is just experimenting, trying out different ideas. And I got a bit distracted with the processing because it was pretty interesting. So you saw our original take. So what's the first thing I did with this thing? Well, the first thing I did was I wanted to get rid of the vibrato. So I could, for example, okay, we're going to listen to it one more time, but we're going to send it through something. So we're going to put it in its own track. We're going to toss an auto-tune on it. And if you put an auto-tune on it and immediately bring down the retune speed to 0, and we'll put it in classic, what the heck. This is going to basically just snap it to the nearest notes. And we're also in C minor, and I'm a guy, and so I'm going to choose low male. And this is what it sounds like. We come from far away. You get that up and down thing, and that is very popular in certain cases. I didn't want it. So what I did to get rid of it, because I found out that getting rid of the vibrato is actually a bit tougher than I thought. So there's a couple ways. You could do it with Autotune Pro. You go into the graph mode, and you would record it in, and just, we come from far away. And you can see it like drawn out, like the pitch curve, and then you can come in and like edit that curve and say, no, change the pitch to do this or whatever. So very, very intense editing mode. But FL Studio already has something that is just a bit quicker called New Tone. And I just took the vocal, dragged it in here. For example, we'll take this. I'll just do it for you real fast. Just go whoop, whoop, there it goes. Pause that, bring the variation down. And we will have a totally flat. We come from far away. Variation down. Sorry. We come from far away. So that goes away for the most part. So that's what I did first. And the reason I am going to use Autotune is just because I wanted it to be a real-time process. And it's sort of a famous plugin. So I just wanted to see, what is this going to sound like? Is it really going to be super amazing? Because there are other options out there that also work in real time. But that's the motivations for choosing Autotune. Next up, we hit an Era D. This does some denoising. Let's go ahead and turn all this stuff off and work our way up the chain. So and one other thing, I normalized it. So it's been normalized. And then we add Era D. So before it was very, very noisy. If I take this off, we come from far away. We come in. So much noise. If we turn this on, we come from far away. And I didn't care too much about filtering, so I went pretty aggressively on the upper bands. Actually on all the bands for the most part, but on these two in particular, going to be pretty noticeable coloration with these, I've noticed. And so I did that and got rid of pretty much all the noise. So that was great. We come from, and then after. We come from far. So that's pretty cool. Also, another thing just to know, if you're going to use Era D in particular, it sometimes takes a little bit for it to kick in. And these problems usually don't exist with rendering. If they do, what you can do is you can actually feed it some audio so that it can adjust, and just don't send that audio out to the master so that it's still processing. You can just automate the volume knob down and then back up. That way when it comes up, you're getting your like properly denoised thing, because it needs a second to adjust. just sort of something I've noticed. I really like to use Arity because it's typically the cleanest that I've had. I mean, like, of the ones that I really, really like, right now Arity's on the top of Denoising. For me personally. There's a bunch of really, really great ones. I'm not to say the other ones are not good, just I really, really like Arity. Next up, we have some compression going on. So this just evens out the voice. I'm not really going to dive into this, but there's compression. And another just disclaimer, this isn't like mixing at this point yet. As far as like worrying about levels and stuff. Everything's way, way, way too loud. I'm aware. And then we've also got a TDR Nova. Now, TDR Nova came on after the fact, so we're going to leave it off for a second. With the compression, it sounds like this. We come from far away. Very important that you get the compression going. You need to have compression because when you hear those sounds, those like just those great auto-tune vocal sounds, the vocals just got to be basically just a brick and it just goes. Very rarely does it get soft. I've not really heard an auto-tune vocal that even does that. So without it, we come from that first part's so soft, that's not how it would be. We come from. It'll be much closer to that. Just a loud, 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 just all the time. So that's, I'm going for just sort of the classic, what you would think of effect. Now we've also got the wave shaper. So we've got some clipping going on. So this is basically just a clipper and it sounds like this. We come from far away. We come in here to play. So, you know, the clipping right now, this is all just stuff to take care of tone. We still haven't hit the auto-tune yet. And in fact, the auto-tune might benefit from going before the clipper. Next up, some stereo shaping. So this is just to widen it. It is a mono signal, so I just wanted to make it wide. I'm using M stereo spread. There's a bunch. Be aware there are some, like if you get something that says stereo expander, typically that means that it's expecting an already stereo signal and it will adjust it. It will not take a mono signal and make it stereo. You need a plugin that you know will take a mono signal and do things to make it stereo. There's a variety of them. In this case, I just happened to choose M stereo spread. If you want a native FL native one, there's stereo, this one, stereo shaper. That's great. You can use that. It adds a delay or a phase shift between the two channels, and it gives you a stereo image. Very, very cool. And you just want to check for mono compatibility. But for the most part, I don't think you run into any problems. There's also Wider by Infected Mushroom, totally free. Let me really quick just show you what it sounds like without the stereo spread. We come from far away. We come in here to play. And then with the stereo spread. We come from far away. We come in here to play. So it's much wider, just big time wider, which is exactly what I was going for here. So we've got that taken care of. And finally, the auto-tune. So you notice right here too, just some not correct notes are going on. And so auto-tune this is like the big famous pro version. The features I'm using here actually could probably be done with just the artist version, which is quite a bit cheaper. The way you get the effect is you just turn the retune speed to 0. So it tries to instantly correct whatever pitch problems it has. And what you can do is you just give it a scale. I want to choose the minor scale in C. I'm a low male, so that's what I chose as my input. And I left pretty much everything else alone. Now you saw earlier there's like this crazy graph mode that you can get like really specific with. But typically I think when I'm going to be grabbing this, it's probably going to be for this specific thing because it just excels at this really well. That's like what it's famous for, this effect. So let's go ahead and just sort of hear that. I also have it on classic mode, which just kind of, it changes the algorithm a bit. And let's just hear it. We come from far away. We come in here to play. And you see it fixed that right there too. If we get rid of that and just listen to that here to play. We come in here to play. There's some weird pitch stuff going on in there. And this. We come in here to play. It totally fixes it. It's kind of surprising how much of a signature effect it is for how sort of simple it can be to use. And then up next we have some reverb because it sounds just kind of weird where it's at. We come in here to play. And you can get actually super creative with the verb afterwards. And then we have an EQ to cut out some of the low stuff that was existing.
We come in here to play.
And finally, it was a bit bright still, and so I wanted to try and reduce its brightness. And recently I've just been using God Phaser a lot for this. So it's God Phaser on the Chorus Widener preset. And it does quite a nice job, actually. We just listened to this.
We come in here to play.
God Phaser is just awesome for just making things sound smoother. So that's why I picked this. And let's just go ahead and hear it without it.
We come from far away. We come in here to play.
And now let's hear it with it.
We come from far away. We come in here to play.
So this is one that you may or may not hear on things. I like what it does to the sound. Adds just sort of a little bit more texture to it. Again, just try.
We come from far away.
And then with.
We come from far away.
Especially on those transitions, it's like, that's nice. Now there is one thing up here that was sort of a afterthought, and I actually came back and revisited the compression a couple times. But there is a TDR Nova, which all it's doing is it's basically just a multi-band compressor. And it's just taking down these mids when they get a little too much. And same thing for the highs.
We come from far away.
And you can see that's just a way smoother sound. If we take this off again.
We come from far away.
Like that could cut through. This is going to depend on the mix, whether or not I keep this particular move.
We come from far away.
But if we turn this on,
we come from far away.
That's just nice. I like that more just from a tonal standpoint. But anyways, that's the motivation for this. I actually want to try real quick and move the Autotune. Whoops, I guess that didn't matter. Move the Autotune up before the wave shaper.
We come from far away.
I think I'm going to keep it, actually, go back.
We come from far away. We come from far away.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it there. So anyways, that is how you can get your own sort of sound. It actually is a pretty straightforward stack if you look at it. There's some signal conditioning. We've got like de-essing, getting rid of noise and stuff, some compression to prep it. Then we go through the Autotune, which I actually had distortion first. In this case, it didn't matter very much, but we go through the Autotune to get the correct pitches. We distort it to get some of that flavor in there. And this is just basically soft clipping. And we've got a stereo shaper, add some widening. So this is sort of a mixing decision. Actually, the rest of these are pretty much mixing decisions. Stereo widening, reverb mixing decision, equalization mixing decision. And then this one's a sound design decision, which is just some chorusing just to add a little bit of texture. And at the end of it, we stuck one more compressor just to sort of tonally rein it in. And we wound up with a pretty nice result. Now, my vocal, of course, probably isn't the best demonstration of this, but you can see it's actually not too hard to get. And if we just listen to it in context.
We come from far away. We come in here to play. This is our chance to say we're through with you today. Red sides and rosy skies convey to the eyes. Just when the problem dies, I hear the children cry.
So pretty cool. I'm excited to keep working on this. Probably going to record a better vocal or maybe just someone else entirely and soup it up. But there you go. I will have an affiliate link to some of the plugins that you saw in this video down below. I know for a fact that Autotune will be down there. So if you're interested in checking out Autotune, you can go ahead and see that for yourself. Subscribe and have a blessed day.